depends.
So, I believe this is our third coaching session, right? Or is it?
It's the second.
It is our second one. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm looking through. I'm trying to remember exactly what we covered in the first one because I think we did end up. Did we change your ZVT build much? I'm looking through.
Yeah. We went through the ZvT and we were trying to have less links in the beginning, like 10 or 12 instead of 20. And focus more on droning the third instead of going too fast into queens. So that was the.
Did you find you're getting your drone count up a little
thing.
bit faster on that third base?
Yes, definitely I do.
Okay, and some games you're a little undefended and Hellions run in and kill all your drones, or is that hopefully not too often?
Yes, I got that.
That's the We're like, hey, we're gonna be a little bit greedier, balance our defense just on the knife's edge, or like you're slightly out of position, or a little bit late on, some queens, or adding the extra zerglings. Like, okay, I was 5 seconds late on my extra lings, and oh no, this guy went crazy hard on the Hellions.
Directly into my third.
Part of the learning process, right? As long as it's not too often, and we are getting the extra drones and kind of minimizing that over time, should be good though, right?
Yeah. It's really good.
Okay.
Actually, so now it's swapped over to having problems with bio. So that's one step forward.
Good.
But I think we could cover. Yeah, good. But I think we could cover that in one of the next sessions then. So having it as the next step on the CVT.
Indeed. I mean, that's always it, right? You plug a hole in the weakness in one area, and suddenly the other areas start to show their weakness. So
yeah. Exactly.
I'll let you host those replays up while I read through these notes you've put here. So you've written second session at the top, and you've kind of put down your ZvP build. And you've talked about scouting and reactions and all that. So it looks like some really good prep. Did we go over this? I don't think we managed to talk too much about ZvP in your last session, did we?
No, not at all. We didn't
not at all.
talk about it at all.
Good, because I'm reading this and I'm like, I don't think I've like talked to you about about this build order at all. Okay.
No.
Previously, we did talk just about because the last thing we had was those questions and problems where I answered in bold before, but that was all to do with ZvT. That was just follow-up stuff on our previous session, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, we were talking about battle cruisers was the last question. Okay, fantastic. Awesome. All right, I'm all up to date with that. So we can dive into this replay, try and figure out exactly what we can do here. And let's read through the build orders. You go 15 or 16 hatch, so you're really adamant on getting that hatch first. If it's Cyber Forest, you go 15 hatch to make sure they can't block it.
And I think Kairos Junction as well. Yeah.
Okay, cool. I find on Kairos, usually 16 hatch gets down because most Protoss are lazy and they don't get down there quick enough. They're just a second or two too late, but obviously based on whatever your experience is on ladder, either way is fine. Better safe than sorry. And you're doing the 23rd hatch. Okay, yep. Okay. The star, which a lot of people do screw up. And you are building your Overlord on 26. So you go 26 Ling speed, then Overlord, and 2 pairs of Zerglings. Okay, fantastic. And then we are going to get our next queen on 28. We spread a Creep Tumor immediately. Oh, so yeah, you go Creep Tumor first, of course, right, rather than going for the Inject at the very start. Okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Actually, in the past, because I never really did this build for a long period of time. I've done it for very short, brief stints, and I'm trying to remember how often the Koreans and just top players, I know Laser does this build quite a bit, a few other top Zergs do. That's interesting. I'm just wondering if we have a little bit of excess minerals. We have such a fast third hatch, I can't imagine it's a lot, but I'm just going to pay attention to that when I watch this game to see if we could shift that around, but I think it should be fine. And then we get a third queen at 36, Overlord, 2 drones back in gas, 42, 2 Overlords, and we get a 4th queen as well. Okay, fantastic. So Roachhorn, Lair, 2 gases, Lair, Roachhorn, and then 3 spores at 410. Okay, so this is the part I don't like in your document. If you see where I've just made it bold.
I need to skip a bit. Yeah, so one thing is different because I'm staying on 3 queens at the moment because I want to have more drones out faster.
Cool. So delaying that 4th queen a bit. I like that.
Yes. try it at least. Yeah.
At the moment, we're trying to delay 4th queen for more continual drones for a bit. Yeah. Good. Okay, I think that's a good little adjustment. It doesn't have to be a massive delay, but even if it's just like a little bit of a deprioritizing, where we're like, yeah, let's, it usually ends up being delayed maybe 20 seconds because we're just trying to spend all our lava for a little bit, then get that queen. And some people will even skip that queen entirely until like 5 minutes 30 or something like that, unless they're playing against Stargate, right? Because they're just like, I'm just going to play minimal queens, get up a good drone count, then a good army count, and kind of go from there. So before we talk too much about this, specific game and the build order and stuff, one of the biggest things I really like is to scout their tech straight away and know if it's either a Stargate or a ground-based opening. Because one of the problems here with your build is you've got 4-minute 10 Spork rollers down, which is exceptionally early. So if we're going up against DTs, there are some builds you'll see like Harstem and a few other Protoss, big fan of hitting, with DTs hitting at about 435, 440. They go in with 2 or 3 DTs very, very early. But that's like, the absolute fastest, best players in the world. I saw one of the top Korean Protossers doing that as well, doing that recently. So very rarely do we need spores that early against that. And on the other hand, against an Oracle, 410 is usually too late for the first Oracle coming in. So I feel like it's a little bit in between. Now, at the same time, if we go spores too early, we just drop them 3 minutes 40 every game or whatever, that's also really expensive, especially if it turns out they weren't going Stargate, right? So I think we almost always want to recognize, is this a Stargate game? Or is this a ground-based game and we want to flex the Roach Warren and Lair goes faster if it's ground, like in this game? If it's Stargate, the spores go faster, Roach Warren and Lair comes down later. Do you think that's something you normally kind of do to some extent?
At least I'm trying. I'm trying to do it, but mostly I'm fine when I think it is ground-based at the moment. So really, only a small amount of players goes Stargate first. At least the ones I play. Yes, and I have problems with scouting the first tech. I must say, because I tried. As I wrote it down there as well. I know that you say, okay, go check the natural and go directly into the main with your overlord.
Yeah.
And I so often just got it shut down by a stalker or something like that.
You do see the tech though before you die, right? Unless you're playing the biggest map in the pool. I can't remember what the biggest one is. There's one really big map where you might not see the tech. Or
okay, maybe
yeah.
Yeah, maybe I should I should change it to that then. I had the feeling that I do not see the tech then.
Okay.
Or, yeah.
I think
maybe I missed the timing.
I mean, if it's rallied straight in, so it doesn't pause at all at the natural, it just kind of skims past the front of the natural and goes straight in. So like we don't, a lot of people send it to the natural, sit there and they go, oh yeah, I meant to sacrifice this, send it through. And even a few seconds obviously can make a big difference. But here on like Kairos Junction, for instance, if you go straight through, you would always pretty much see the whole main base, unless they hide their tech like maybe up to the top right or something, and you come up from the natural and you're going towards the back. So there are those rare cases. I really like it just because percentage-wise, it's simplified it for me. And I do recognize this is a very imperfect option. And especially if Stalker first is super common, then that also is another argument against it. So you're like, oh, I'm playing against Stalker first every game. That's a good argument for you to kind of maybe not do that. Let me go back to the game heart overlay, by the way. And this game, I believe, was Stalker first, right? Let's go check. No, this one was Adept first. Yeah, so this is an example of a game where we would have been able to get the full scout and go out the back of the base and keep the Overlord alive. So obviously we can base it on your own percentage, but we could definitely experiment with that. Anyway, let's just say that's an option. So OV dive in a natural main base is an option. What are the other options for scouting tech? Ling spotters around the base to spot, Oracle incoming. That's Oracle or Prism incoming is another way you can identify it, but that's hard to identify it on time kind of thing, right? So around the space to spot let's just say to spot Oracle incoming, and you could do it where you say, no Oracle at 4 minutes, or let's say 350. Let's say 345, no Oracle left base yet. We can assume it's a ground base, a ground play. We can assume it's Robo Twilight, right? So you can do it that way, potentially. The other way, of course, is, so I'm just thinking, so, scouting. We can also do a Ling Run By, right? So Ling Run By. First 2 to 4 Lings, dodge the Adept, and try to get straight into the base. And that one, depending on the meta and everything, is surprisingly reliable. And that one can actually be paired up with the Ovi dive. This is the very first Overlord. So if they go Stalker first, because this was happening in the meta on NA for a while, I was playing against it. So I'm trying to remember, because everyone stopped going Stalker first. It's like a herd of animals. Everyone does one thing, then they all do another thing. It's kind of weird. But yeah, basically players were going Stalker first, and I would just go straight across the map with 4 Lings. So that Stalker would be in the main, killing my Overlord, and I'd be like, I'm in your natural, killing probes with 4 Lings. And especially on the medium and the smaller size maps, this basically really just punished their opening. And I felt like, well, either the Overlord gets away, or they lose a whole bunch of mining on the natural, and things just get a little bit awkward for them. So I actually... So basically, I made a little adjustment with that, where I remember when everyone was going Stalker first. So in the Stalker first meta, I actually, skipped the 20th drone, saved lava to build 6 Lings immediately. And I did like game-ending damage sometimes with it, almost. Not really game-ending, but just this big amount of damage that shouldn't happen. Build 6 Lings immediately when pool finishes. Now, obviously, that doesn't work as well with your fast third build. Just a cool little option, and just something to keep in the back of our head is like, oh, that's actually really dirty, and it can take advantage of the Stalker first to some extent. So I think those are the main scouting options. Obviously, it's like you could have a second Overlord come across and go for a later scout, or you could like skirt the edges with your first Overlord. Actually, yeah, that's one other option with the first Overlord. So safer Overlord option is to scout front of natural and then skirt the edge. So what I mean by that is if you go to everyone's camera, you just check the front, and then you would go up here. So they might get a few shots on you, but you can always move to the right and then move up to this dead space. And then potentially you can work your way in and kind of come in from the top of the base if they're not guarding the edge, and you can come in with a slightly later sacrifice. Now, whenever you do that or the dive, we're missing out on the thing you've been consistently scouting for, which is those natural gases, right? And that's important. If we lose our first Overlord, how are we going to check those gases? How are we going to know if it's one of these charge all-ins or not? That's important. So with either of those options, so either of these 2 OV options, it's important to send a second Overlord across the map ready to scout the natural gas. Now, this is something where people going Phoenix first, you don't like sending another Overlord across, right? But I like to send it to a rather unnoticeable position. So I send it straight there. So basically from the moment I know I'm not being cannon rushed at my natural hatchery is like most of the way done, I'll send my second Overlord over here where I've signaled. And that way I can start working it in. So I can come in at about 4:30 and I can say, oh, no double gas at 4:45. Okay, I can tell if they've taken the gas or not on the natural. Now, obviously, that doesn't help us against this particular all-in in this game. That's too late to scout, but it helps against every other all-in. And we'll talk about this all-in in this replay specifically and why it has its own rule set of how we figure out it's coming, because it's bullshit. And we really need to know exactly how to stop it. It needs its own rule set. I've been doing this a lot on ladder lately, and I joke about how I mess it up and hit 30 seconds later than the pros and still win every game. Which your opponent's going to do as well.
You have a name for it. You have a name for it, right?
It's called the Marjorie build. Yeah, there's a German Protoss player who's like low GM, I think, or like Masters 1 or something, who like Apparently he did this for a few weeks on ladder and kept beating all these Zergs who were like 800 MMR above him. So he became famous, and they're all like, "Oh, it's the Marjorie build. Oh my god!" And then we've seen it so much in tournaments. Yeah, I think I came up with some stupid nickname for it yesterday, where I don't know, it's like the shitty Marjorie build or something, because I just hit it really late. I don't know. It's like I can't even remember what I called it, but basically something terrible because I hit it really poorly. But anyways, that's scouting options. So let's keep talking about that theory really quickly, just so we can kind of like identify the right structure. And let's try and choose one to stick with first so we can investigate it. So out of those options we've written down there in your document, and we've kind of listed out all those different scouting options, I personally like one of the first two options as my favorite. And I link run by can be added in as well, but it's up to you. What sounds best for you? Which one do you sound most interested in?
Yeah, I think the second one is good. I also like the fourth one, the Ling Run By, but I don't want to change too much in the beginning.
Yeah, I mean, we could kind of do both, but we'll hold off on the Ling Run By for now, and we can try to remember to practice that. Like, maybe you could put a thing in your calendar where you're like 3 weeks from now or something, it's like something pops up in your calendar. It's like, hey, remember to experiment with the 6-ling opening, like after you've got everything else we work on down. So it's not, a distraction from the main things we're focusing on, but it's like a bonus branch you can work on in your ZvP. Okay, so we'll work on the second one. So I'm going to put that in bold so we know that's the option we're going with. So that's the Overlord skirting along the edge. And the thing is, if you see an Adept like comes out first that gateway, or a second Adept or whatever, or a Sentry, you can just like go in, no fear. Like if you see a Sentry come out, you can just go straight through the base, go out the other side. The Sentry won't kill you in time because Sentries do no damage.
Okay.
So there's actually quite a few options with the skirting one where as you get good at it, you will get a full scout. You'll learn to identify, oh, this is awesome. Like I actually can get a full scout and see what's happening. That's good because that's going to tell us what's happening. Now, how's that going to change this game? The big thing where you said you're pretty good against ground play normally, that's usually what's happening. The problem we're having, or the thing that I didn't like with your ground response, is the Spore Crawler timing being so fast. I like the gas timing, I like the Roachmore and the layer timing. I think these are all good, though. There was a big gap in droning there for a second, which was a little bit nasty, because we're a bit too focused on our in-game timers. But these spores go down, a little bit too early. So because you're going such a fast layer, you could actually get away with being a greedy boy. Okay, that's really weird. I should be able to look at progress bars. What is that setting called? I think that might be in graphics. You know where you can hover over a bar and it should show you the progress? That's really weird. That's not popping up. I always forget where that setting is. It doesn't really matter. But anyway, basically your lair should be about 30 seconds from finishing. If you make an Overseer straight away, you're probably okay against most DT builds, not all. So if you want to be a really greedy boy against DTs, you can just go Overseer. But we're not really worried about Oracles, right? Unless we actually spot a Stargate. So these spores, in general, how about we just go, I think 4-minute 30 Spore Crawlers should be just fine. And that way they're done by 4:51. And yeah, I think... No, you know what? If it's mostly... Are you playing against DTs much? How often are you playing against DTs?
Every third game, I would say.
Okay. Every third game DTs come in. So basically what we want to do is...
And at that point here, I didn't even know that I was playing against a non-Stargate build, I think.
Yeah. We're going to have the new scouting, so we'll basically... We're going to work off the assumption as if this is like the new scouting, this is a robo first.
Mm-hmm.
And that makes a difference. So you know what? Because you're going such a fast layer, that I basically feel like the fast layer is so good for the fast Overseer, because it helps cross that out. Now, roach speed early is nice, but it's like, it's not the most important thing. It's more about the Overseer, because the Overseer allows you to scout what your opponent's doing exactly, and it allows you to defend DTs. So if we're going to go such a fast layer, I feel like it's a waste to then also go Spore Crawlers. I feel like we can just focus on our layer even more, make sure that layer goes down, bam, right on time, and we make it Overseer as soon as it's done. So instead, what we're going to do is we're actually going to skip spores as standard. And instead, make sure lair starts immediately on 3 minutes 50, thereabouts. So you see in this game, we had 100 gas. We actually could have started it just a little bit earlier. So you see we could have started about 3:45. So with your lair, where is that in your build order?
I was just looking for it. I didn't see it.
It's not written down in your build order. That's why. That's okay. We're going to say at 100 gas, which is, of course, 3:45, we are going to start that lair. And that's going to be really, really nice. So that's a nice little adjustment. And then basically, you can write this in your own format, but I'm just going to write straight into Overseer immediately. And that's a defensive Overseer. You've been going Overseer Scout very quickly. We're not actually going to be worried about that as much. Delay Overseer Scout, because we'll already have the information we need. As nice as the Overseer Scout will be, we're probably already spending every bit of money we need on roaches or drones at that point. So the Overseer Scout doesn't have to be as super high priority, because we're making a defensive Overseer and roach speed. If we're also making a scouting Overseer and then charge lots of immortals are coming in, it's like we've just put all our gas in really unimportant places. So important to kind of change that up. So this is awesome. Skip spores is standard. Instead, make sure we make the lair straight into Overseer. Straight into Overseer. For detection. Now, what if they come in with multi-prong DTs a little bit later, like they do a second wave or something? We can put in like a little thing where we say, oh, if it's DT tech, so if we know it's DT tech, once we put that Overseers, then we will react with 5 minute /5 minute 30 spores. Okay, just so we do have the detection at each base in case our Overseer is out of position. I have this thing where sometimes I'm losing to a Zerg player and I've done no damage to my harass. I'm like, shit, this is going bad. And I go glance at what I've seen in their base with my hallucination, and I notice there's no spore crawlers in any bases, even though they shut down my initial DTs with an Overseer. And I go, oh! And I immediately send a DT down either side of the map, just waiting. And then the moment there's any other fight or distraction going on the map, I just click them into 2 of their bases, and I kill like 30 drones with these 2 DTs. Because I know they've been a greedy player who knows I've got DT tech, and they haven't put a spore at each base. And I know they're not going to add them usually as well. So we're going to be that greedy player at the start, but we're not going to be greedy in the follow-up. So I'm going to write 530 spores. It's not like that early or anything, but like you've still got Overseers. It's really if they just surprise you later on. Are questions popping into your head?
Where should I put my Overseer first?
With your roaches. So
where? Where? So not where in the build, but on the third or on the main, or
in between the natural and the third. You should have pretty good map vision, so you should have some idea. Like in this game, if we fast forward to about 4:30 for 5 minutes, let's take a look what our map vision looks like. But usually, you see this whole bottom side, you've got really good vision, so you will have time to react if he goes into your main base with a prism, and you'll always have that. Preferably, we also would have had an Overseer like up above your natural, something like that. So usually just kind of towards your third base, that's usually the point of contention, but maybe, somewhere between your natural and your third is a good middle ground. That's usually where you should be setting up your defense.
Okay.
Awesome. Okay, so we've got DTs covered. We've got your scouting down to identify what branch it is. By cutting out these spore crawlers and speeding up the lair, we've covered that option and we've saved you a butt ton of money. Those spores were expensive. Now, the other thing here is prioritization and minor reordering of things. So this is a funny part. And this is where we can either get way ahead with an option. And I'm not going to tell you what's right and what's wrong because I don't personally know. All I know is there's options, and I kind of adjust this myself. Just now, you've gone lair, roach warren, double gas. What's our timing to go for all 3 of those?
It's usually when my queen in the main pops.
So it's when your queen in the main pops out, and that's your... So
that's around 30. I think it's around 36 supply.
That you start that queen, or that she pops out?
That she pops out. Okay.
Well, I mean, we definitely don't want to rush those too early. So if we watch this,
Or
right?
it's around saturation of the second mineral line.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's a good marker, is the saturation of the mineral line. So I'm just going to add that in to make sure we don't do that early at all, which I don't think you would, but just in case. Natural saturation. I'm just adding that into our build as a marker to make sure we're tight on that. Because we're floating a lot of lava here, right? 10 lava. Imagine if we put the lair, Roachmore, and double gas money all into drones right now. Ooh, we'd be so rich. And then we'd die to, a really fast immortal timing. But that's essentially what we're doing if it's a Stargate build, right? You're just building drones and maybe an extra queen and just spore crawlers, right? And that's all you're doing. In this particular game, you've actually gone a really fast 5th queen as well. So we never want to go 5 queens. We always want to go just 4 queens. Because whilst queens are good versus prisms and they can really help anchor our defense, they're just so expensive. And we'd rather have more drones, more roaches. So we want to try and play a kind of minimalistic queen count and have more units that can kill stuff, roaches and whatnot. Even though queens are nice at tanking against immortals, they're not very mobile, and zealots will just kind of chomp through them pretty quickly. So I don't think you normally have... I mean, you said at the moment you're actually trying to delay your 4th queen, yet in this game we went for a fast 5th queen. So I think this is a bit of a divergence from what you normally do. And I think maybe that's because you weren't sure if it was an oracle or not.
Yeah, maybe I changed it lately, so
okay,
that's only a couple of days or something like that. So
that
that's
makes
possible.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think this is. I think it's really good though because we can see just how much money you'd have, right? If we hadn't even started your 4th queen yet, we have 300 more minerals at this point. So what I'm juggling with right now is I'm saying, ooh, we've got 10 lava. I wish we were already putting those into drones, but I also don't want us to delay the Roachhorn and the lair and adding the gases. So that's what I'm torn about here, and that's why I'm like staring at this replay and I'm going, where can we get the money from? I'm like, I want you to get those drones started, but I also don't want this to be delayed. The Roachhorn and lair. I think we just found 300 minerals, so I think that's good. That's 6 extra drones right there. So that's awesome. Getting that started. So I think this is really important. So that's actually really, really nice. If we kind of stick with that, delaying the 4th queen, just 3 queens, because you get such an early creep tumor going anyway. Now, you didn't spread it as quickly as you could have, but you do get that creep tumor, and that's always going to connect your natural to your 3rd and get a bit of creep out front. And preferably out front your natural is the most important area against these all-ins. So if you see where I'm signaling,
yeah.
As long as your natural's connected to your 3rd, getting it out there is the most important bit, right? Because that's like the fastest attack path that's going to push in to kill you. So any crazy sentry push or any crazy charge load immortal in, like what we're up against, is going to come straight through this angle. So that's going to be the important area for us to defend. So all things considered, it's a pretty good build. But number one, what's the main thing we've done? We've said, okay, we're going to more consistently know if it's Stargate or Roaches, and really focus on that response. I'm not talking too much about the Stargate response, but I think you kind of know what you're meant to do. It's just delay the Roachhorn and the lair till quite a lot later, get the spores a bit earlier. Thumbs up. That's about it. Let's focus on this one. Let's not focus too much on the other stuff. So the idea here is now let's talk about scouting and dirty all-in attacks and stuff. So let's imagine we've maybe seen there's a robo first by poking in with that observer I was talking about. The advantage of skirting with that overlord is it's actually a lot better for scouting this specific all-in. So I'm kind of happy you've chosen that because that makes our life a bit easier. If we keep that first overlord alive, and that second overlord, remember, you see where I'm signaling down here, so this second overlord is already moving into position behind the natural. Now that second overlord does not help us with this specific push. But with all the slightly later ones, it does. But that first overlord, if it was above the main base, up in that beautiful spot up there, which, remember, overlords have much longer vision than any other unit in the game. So they actually can spot buildings without them seeing your overlord and that sort of thing. If you decided to come in at any point here from 3:30 to 4 minutes, if you felt like doing a sacrifice, that would have been great. But even if you just saw that this gas wasn't being mined. So a really cool thing you can check is just see how many workers are on the gas. And the moment you see gas being pulled off in the main base, you know this build's coming and you know exactly what to do. So you're going roaches, you're going lings, and some queens. What worker count do you stop at against this? If you're playing against the 32 probe charge lot immortal all-in, the Marjorie build.
I usually try to get to 41 drones.
Perfect. That's the count. And by taking
And
those...
I still lose.
That's those two queens. Blame the queens. Blame the queens. They're slowing us down too much. It's actually crazy, but yeah. So we queue up these 10 drones and the spore crawlers as well. It's those 2 extra queens plus those spore crawlers. That actually costs us so much money. Do we get a 3rd spore crawler? I'm not sure. Let's take a look. I don't think we do. Yeah, we don't. But that's still 300 minerals plus the 2 spores is another 150, 250 minerals. It's too much. It costs us so much, man. And yeah, against this specific build, we actually don't want roach speed or anything as well. So let's talk about this. So Marjorie build, 32 probe, and let's understand what that is just for the people on stream. Literally, they pull off gas completely, stop at 32 probes. This one nubbed it just like me and built two more probes than needed. Pull off gas completely because you only need gas for charge, 2 immortals. The initial stalker, of course, and the robo as well. But after that, you just pull off gas like steadily. And then you just have 2 mineral lines, and you're meant to have, my rule is you have 8 gates if you're pro, 9 gates if you're a caster, and 10 gates if you're plat. This player went for 7 gateways, so he apparently thinks he's super pro because there's no way he's going to be able to spend all of his money as this continues. So Solafine is actually going to hit one that doesn't have as much sustain to it. It's still a scary push, though. Still a very scary push. But basically the idea here is it has 0 follow-up, and all rules about you wanting to be half a base ahead of workers or something like that kind of disappear. Realistically, you could actually defend this on the same worker count, 32 drones, and as long as you crush the fight, you are infinitely ahead because you as the Zerg can drone up your 3rd base just at a moment's notice, and you're actually building better units. If you're building Ling Bane, it's kind of better than this. If you're building Roaches, it's kind of better than this. That used to be the thing. Now, in Legacy, charge gives bonus damage, and they have extra movement speed, so charge lot's kind of super scary, and we have Immortal Micro with prisms. So if our opponent has good enough micro, they still have an army that's better than us, which is why we do need more workers. But they have no transition. They can't drop a Templar Archives. They have no upgrades. They have no sentries. They can warp in behind this. There is 0 follow-up for the Protoss player. Their follow-up is so handicapped and so much slower than any other build. It is the most all-in attack. So that's the Marjorie build. So what are the tells? The tells are... Let's go back a little bit in this game and watch from his base, because we don't want to be recognizing this as it's coming across the map. Ideally, we recognize it at like 345 or something like that. Pulled off gas in main bases. So if there's any gas geyser that's under 3 workers in the main, already big tell, okay? Let's also map it out just so we understand it. It is, of course, a robo into Twilight. And then Prism first to deny scouting with Stalker. So that Prism and the Stalker will just try and deny your Overlord and stuff, and that's kind of their job. And then into 8 gates, okay? So, okay, we know what the build looks like. So the tells...
Can you say why it's Robo into Twilight? That's what I don't know.
Why?
Why is it Robo into Twilight?
Oh,
yeah,
just because they need to get 2 Immortals out very quickly, and they want to deny your scouting with the Prism. They really want to get rid of this Overlord on the high ground, so they need to get that Prism down here as quickly as possible. Because if they can't get rid of that Overlord, you can see the most important tell. Luckily for us, you're not playing Hearthstone, so they're really shitty, and they're going to give away the tell anyway. So you see his Prism's just chilling in the main. He's missing one of the most important parts of the build. He also just started Glaives, then cancelled it, then started Charge. And he still isn't getting rid of your Overlord! Which is what I was talking about. He gives you the most important tell in the game with this build.
Okay, good.
So that is, he's not building probes, and he hasn't been for a while. He stops at like 340 or something like that, which is when you're meant to. So if you look at the Nexus, you can see there are lights that flash. If you zoom in on the Nexus, up on the little horseshoe on the side of the Nexus. And they stop flashing when it's not building probes. Were you aware of that graphic?
Yeah, I know it.
Yeah. So
I just didn't look at it probably, but I know it.
So we can just build a check into your build where you can just go, oh cool, 4 minutes, or like just before this Overlord dies, if they are killing it, are they building probes on that Nexus? Hearthstone fakes building probes. What he does, and he did a little guide on this, so all the high-level Protoss players do this, he will keep queuing up 2 probes, cancel the one that's about to finish, queue up another one. So he just keeps 2
Yeah,
probes.
I saw it.
You've seen it.
That's
Yeah.
really.
It's disgusting.
Yeah, I know that he's famous for it.
It's disgusting. But you're not ever going to play anyone who does that properly. I try to do it, and I like forget my gateways or something. Like, I know I can get it with a bit more practice. I've just been lazy. But it's very rare you're going to find someone in Diamond who's going to do that properly. So basically, 4 minutes, we can just check for the lights. Check lights on Nexus. No lights equals probably a Marjorie. Now, there is one problem there. Sometimes you're playing a shitter who is supply blocked and can't build probes for a few seconds. Or he's a shitter who just forgot to build probes when you looked at it. So ideally, what we're going to do is we're going to say, okay, I'm going to say 3:45. Sorry, 3:45 to 4 minutes. Check lights on Nexus. No lights is probably Marjorie. If no lights, check again 10 seconds later for the confirmation. So if you start finding, you play a lot of games where people just screw up their probe production, so you want to start bringing in a double check. Go back and double check it. Honestly, if you play super safe against this, it's not the end of the world. Stopping at 41 drones and building a whole lot of fighting units is not that bad. You can still make roach speed and go do a big roachling attack on a third base of a Protoss, which can actually work really damned well. If you're like, oh, he wasn't actually attacking. But those are the 2 main tells. If they pull off gas in the main, and if they do that. So we're going to stop at 41 drones, as you said. And mass roach is the main thing we want to do. Because the Zealots kill Zerglings so easily, it's mostly roaches we want. We can obviously add in extra Zerglings, but mostly roaches. Now, I personally really like to get a 4th gas as well. And if I can make like a Ravager or 2, that can be nice, just because they're a bit more mobile, a bit more range, but they can also shoot down the prism very well. 41 drones and mass roach. Move any spore crawlers. So if you fucked up and you have spore crawlers, which you shouldn't, but you move those to the front to try and snipe the prism. And try to snipe prism with queens. But don't just get them killed. Don't YOLO them into the open and get them killed. The main thing, though, is the roach micro. So the roach micro, and you're not going to get a chance to do it because you don't have the numbers in this game, so you're just dead. Like, there's nothing you could do at this point. It's basically just pull back, shoot, pull back, shoot. Only stand and fight in very tight choke, behind minerals, hatchery, etc. Where Immortals will automatically focus on hatchery, if not microed, and Zealots can't get surface area. So in this engagement, we just didn't have enough units. We can see our third to our natural wasn't fully connected, but we always want to be on the side of our natural, because that's where our double gas is and all of our drones. Because you have to run away from your opponent, you never want to be coming to him from your third, because then if you want to be, each time he attacks you, you want to run away, shoot. And if he pushes you away from your natural, it becomes really hard because then you're away from most of your production. So you've got to micro 2 different sides of the fight. And if he gets on top of those gases on the natural, you're screwed.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And I'm still skipping on the roach speed, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, okay. Good point. Skip roach speed. No overseers. Just fighting units. And yeah. Oh, and also, don't underestimate the follow-up waves. So I get actually crushed by the first wave every time I fight this. When I go with the Immortal Charge Lot, I pull back, they chase me off creep, I warp in another round of Zealots, I kill all their roaches either off creep, or I just go in with 2 more Zealot warp-ins, and they're like trying to build more drones or something like that. And it's like, no. Like, the Protoss player is just going to keep making Zealots. You just need to keep making roaches for quite a while. Because the follow-up attack's very, very powerful. But yeah, we didn't have the numbers here. We get rid of the queens and spores. I think you would have enough here just to do a nice move and shoot. Now, the only other thing that worried me with this engagement was it did look like you ran forward and started kind of trying to shoot the Immortal with your queens. So I don't know if that was a misclick or not.
Probably misclick. I get the queens for the prism. usually.
Yeah, I think that's what you meant to do. You're like, it's a big orange unit, like a big kind of, they're the same color. Let's click on it. And I was like, queens are never going to kill an immortal. Like, it is nice if you can like click an individual roach or a zergling or a queen to attack an immortal just to set off the barrier early on in a fight while you're killing other units. But it's like a bonus thing. So yeah, if we got those queens back and we're pulling back to the left with the roaches, we might have actually been able to get the defense together here. I'm not saying definitely we would have been able to, but if we kept those queens alive, started dropping transfuses, pulled back, maybe we might have been able to get a defense together here. Yeah. Awesome. So this was so much theory we managed to get out while watching this replay. Let's hop into another replay and take a look through there.
I hope I opened the right one. So that should be another one. Quite similar.
No worries. Dr. Ryan says, I've actually been practicing the Marjorie, and I've been practicing. It's on time, I think. I mean, I'm sure it's not perfectly on time, Dr. Ryan, but that would be perfect. If we have time for a practice game, we'll absolutely get you in to help us out, mate. That would be great. So for the people on the stream, we are just doing a bit of coaching on stopping 2-base all-in attacks in ZvP, the big thing that's problematic for a lot of people. And I think we already clued into one of the biggest things early on, which is we do need to know if it's Stargate or not early. And it seems subtle because that last game, it looked general, I think, to the untrained eye. Like everything Michael was doing was amazing here. Like I think it looked great. And then I realized where the money was going with like the 2 extra queens, the 2 spores. And I was like, oh, that's actually so big. When you're down at 30 drones, getting an extra 6 or 7 drones out, like that extra 30, 40 seconds earlier, it makes the world of difference. Absolutely massive difference. So that's awesome. I think that's actually reassuring as well, right, Michael? Because you looked good. You looked good with the general order. But it's like just a bunch of details, right? We're not looking at this and like, wow, your build's terrible or anything like that. It's like the structure's there. We just need to like fine tune the scouting a little bit and then fine tune the reaction off that scouting, which is all the small details, which is good. We don't need to rebuild the house or anything. So I'm just going to look at your opening here, by the way. Just look for any small mistakes because this is a real complicated opening. A lot of players screw up. Oh, very nice. Very nice. When I do this, I actually prefer to leave just 16 on minerals this whole time and only mine with like 2 out of gas. But normally you'll see people go 3 on gas. So there's not the biggest difference. I realize that I'm more prone to making a small mistake here or there, and it kind of cushions that mistake. I also find I struggle to have the money to start ling speed straight away when I get the 100 gas in. And if I can just leave 16 workers on minerals the whole time in the main, it just comes out a little bit smoother. So if you feel like it, you might want to experiment with that. But it's low priority, of course. It's not super, super important right now.
Yeah, all right. I think speed is still early enough. So for most cases.
Yeah, well, like this game, you actually, if you had one less guy mining it, you still could have started it at the same time that you clicked it anyway. So it wouldn't have changed anything. It would have just given you a bit more minerals. But okay, so looking at the build. I'm assuming we're probably going to see the same sort of issues where we don't know exactly what's happening and then we kind of overcommit to spores and queens, but I guess you can...
I'm not sure that... I don't remember, so...
Well, that's cool. Yeah, we're both going to find out, aren't we? 4th queen is there. We've got a lot of lava once again at this point. No spores yet, but... There we go. 6 drones do come down. Connecting the main with a creep tumor. Oh, accidentally pulled some dudes off minerals on the natural there when we were putting on gas. That's okay. Why is our camera out of the... Oh, okay. We're splitting zerglings, right. So we still have no idea what we're up against. So, yeah. So the thing is, you actually, like, even here, this game, you actually macroed slightly better. Just slightly better in the opening because we didn't get that 5th queen as early. We delayed her a little bit. And if we just were pumping overlords and then roaches saying, hey, I don't know what's going on, I should be massing units right now, I think you'd be able to hold. Like I said in that last game, you might have been able to hold if you were on the correct side, if you were on the natural and you microed your units together, despite it not being the most efficient build. But because we have no idea what's going on, now we're going, 5 queen spores and we're adding a couple of drones because we're really unsure. Luckily, even with your current scouting, we can see you actually did have the tell. If you move that overlord to the southern side of that pillar, you could have checked this. 3:45 to 4 minutes, and I think we would have seen it, right? Remember the lights on the Nexus? Oh, yeah. No, the lights are there. Actually, oh my god, this skin doesn't have lights on the Nexus? How do you see if probes are building? It's the shiny bit on top with this skin, isn't it? Yeah, okay, it's the shiny bit on top of the Nexus. So with this particular skin, you've got to look for the orange wisps on top of the Nexus.
Ah, okay, I didn't know that.
And they disappear when the probe's finished. Just to, learn your scouting tells for every Protoss building. Protoss buildings have a lot of scouting tells on them, and you need to actually learn. But you can see here, okay, yeah. Oh, he's actually building another probe. He's faking it, kind of. Yeah. Dirty. But that's cool. If we'd sent an overlord in the main, once again, so we can be like, oh, this build's so common and popular. I'm always going to send an overlord through the main base to check at 4 minutes to see if they're mining gas, right? With that skirting overlord. So let's do that in this meta. I'm going to write down your skirting overlord. Sacrifice the skirting overlord at 4 minutes to see if mining gas in main base. Awesome. Yeah, that's always going to scout this push coming, and then you'd know. Because yeah, you've had so much time where you could have been building so many roaches right now, right? Instead, you've just been adding an extra queen, a few spores, a couple of drones here and there, now a gas, now an overseer, now a roach speed. This is going to hit. This is going to hit quite late. This is going to hit beyond caster timing. Is it? No, he's going to hit caster timing still. Warp prisms are fast. He's still going to hit 5:30 first warp in. And how many gateways do we have? 6 gate. What is wrong with these players? Why have they only got 6 gateways? Oh my god, this is so funny. This is, I can't, this is the funny thing. People think I'm not pro, so I should have less production. I'm like, excuse me. The worse you are, the more production you should have. Protoss players out there. Jesus Christ. I build 9 gateways with this push. Why the hell would you build 6? 2 mineral lines can support 8 if you're perfect. So his push is going to be a bit weaker than it should be. I reckon you would have crushed this if we knew it was coming. So yeah, awesome. Yeah, supply block's going to be real nasty. Ugh, this is so unfortunate. Pull back, pull back. No, don't morph for averages in a fight. Run! Ah!
Okay.
We didn't... I mean, we didn't have the numbers, but we should have been trying to pick away at him while he was hitting the hatch. Go forward, pick off a zealot, pull back, shoot, pull back, shoot, pull back. Because the more space you have, the more chance you have to volley, pull back, volley, pull back. That being said, because your army count was a bit small, even that micro is kind of bad because you don't have enough units to just kill 2 zealots in a volley, pull back, kill 2 zealots in a volley. When you hit a certain critical mass of roaches, the zealots can't all even get on the roaches and they get shot down really nicely. So honestly, these are both really reassuring. Exact same issues as the previous game. Everything we went over in that first one's going to address it. Dr. Ryan, EU, chat channel Piggy right now. We've got time for a practice run through. And this is perfect. Thank you, Dr. Ryan. Didn't you help us the other day as well, Dr. Ryan? I think so. So anyways, you're still host, Michael. If you host up a map of your choice, and yeah. The big 2 things where I've talked about 1,000 details. The big 2 things are, number 1, skirting overlord, and the second overlord, after it checks our natural for cannons. Remember, it goes over to hide behind their third to get ready to scout behind their natural gas. But that overlord is going to sack through at 4 minutes into the main base. So don't bother with looking for flashing lights on the Nexus or anything like that just yet. That's mega advanced fancy scouting. Try to just focus on the overlord sacrifice through the main. And remember, no spore crawlers whatsoever. And we're just going to start that layer up right on time, make an overseer defensively as soon as that layer's done to make sure we're safe against DTs. And we should be good.
Okay, I will try. I created a lobby. I don't know if...
Yeah, we're just waiting for Ryan to get in. I think he's...
Okay.
He said, can you show how to change server? Oh, you've got to Alt F4, Dr. Ryan. So there's a button. This one doesn't work at the moment to swap region. If you go into menu and click the globe, that doesn't work. You need to exit the game, change region in your launcher. I'll show you how. Change it here. So you got to exit the game, change here, and then click play and reopen the game on the different region. It's just in the latest patch, it's broken. So just Alt F4 the game, change it in there, and then go back in. Yeah, it's broken at the moment. Once you get into chat channel Piggy, shout out. What's your in-game name, Ryan? Is it Risu, Neosis, Mkaido? Or just let us shout out when you're in the channel. And it's Dr. Ryan. So we need you on EU, my man. Oh, there he is. Fantastic. Thank you, Dr. Ryan. Absolute legend. Awesome. Just play the build. No adjustments or transition, please. You can pull back and wait for another round or two, etc. But don't be going carriers off the back. If you put him up into the player slot, Michael.
Yep.
Okay, and I'm writing a list here as well, your kind of homework key changes list. So it's going to be new overlord paths, and that's about, and then 4-minute OV sacrifice in main, okay? Other than that, just do your build. I'm going to shut up. I may remind you, hey, cancel those spore crawlers or something like that, but otherwise we should be good. I think your build looks great, so let's kick some ass, man.
All right, yeah, thank you.
All right, whenever you're ready, good luck, have fun. Start it up. You are the host, so kick some ass, man.
Yeah.
Let's murder some Protoss. Let's get some revenge for the 2 base Marjorie builds. We're gonna spray some blue blood all over Kairos Junction. Let's do it, man.
Okay.
Got to make it brutal, guys. Warhammer, thank you so much for the 9-month resub before. Our baby is born. It's a beautiful baby. Like, if I was Abatha, I would just create a lot of really stupid creatures. Like, Warhammer, your name makes me imagine what I would create. It would be a changeling. So it's basically just like a blob that just kind of like shambles around. But it has a Warhammer built into its back. And its one muscular function is it can just like do these ones with the hammer. That's what our child would look like. Just so you know. You wish you were that? It'd be awesome. And it comes with an inbuilt speaker playing the Thomas the Tank Engine theme song. The entire time. It's like a fighting robots show. Exactly, except with Zerg. Delva says, do you suggest staying away from Lingbane Hydra and sticking with only Roach Hydra below Diamond? I'm a big fan of everyone doing whatever the hell they want, Delva. And I think it's like, it just comes down to what you enjoy and what you want to focus on. Work. There. Thank you, DS Gels. Much love. Thank you so much for the support. Glad you're enjoying the YouTube, mate. Thank you. Inbuilt speaker, also known as vocal cords. Shut up, Johnny up. Not all of us have big brains like you, okay? Ease off, buddy. To be fair, they'd be pretty awesome vocal cords if they could just flawlessly play like a song, like the Thomas the Tank Engine theme song. That'd be pretty sick. So he's so keen on his third, he's like, I saw the probe going to block my third. Fuck that. I don't want my build to be disturbed. I like that Michael has focused his build around it not being disturbed. It's great. So back on Delva's question, by the way, yeah, I think if you really enjoyed the Lingbane Hydra, just go for it, man. It's a fun comp, and it's very explosive. Like, the splash damage can ruin charge zealots and marines especially. It's just obviously like banelings running into marauders or Thors or like archons don't do very much, right? So you get bonus points for actually microing your banelings a lot more. Your hydras are a lot more fragile. That being, Hydra Bane technically goes deeper into the game. Roach Hydra's a lot friendlier on bad micro. Yeah, I think it just comes down to what excites you. Like, a lot of people are like, oh, well, like, I'm this level, therefore I shouldn't use this advanced thing. And I'm like, well, you got to start somewhere. And people say, oh, but I'm not going to be able to do it as well as, like, the pro player. And I'm like, yeah, you're not. Your opponents suck also. And this is not something that happens, because you're lower level than me. I think my opponents on ladder really suck as well. Like, I genuinely believe they are mostly stupid and bad. Not stupid. I do try to respect them, but like they're pretty terrible at the game, and I know this because I've watched myself play, and it's just riddled with mistakes. So yeah, there's so many levels below perfect where you're still getting value out of the units and you're getting better and you're having fun. So I reckon if you really enjoy the explosive, like high damage yet fragile army of Lingbane Hydra, go for it. If you'd rather a meteor army, then Roach Hydra's pretty sick. Dr. Ryan, did you guys just see that? He just got the creep tumor. Did he get the creep tumor? Or I think Michael might have cancelled it, actually. Never mind. Oh, that Roach Horn's very early, guys. Oh my. Spread this creep tumor. It's alright, I don't care about him spreading the creep tumor. It's alright, you're doing good. Just send your Scouting Overlord through the main base. For that sacrifice. Just click it right through the main. We can look back at it 20 seconds from now, but you're doing really good. Just keep that droning going. Very nice build order so far. Michael did cancel. Yeah, I looked back and I was like, wait, that tumor hasn't been used. Yeah, Michael canceled it. Badass. Badass moves from both of them there. I really like that little interaction, actually. So Ryan's actually going Glaive Adept. I don't know if that's on purpose or not. I really hope we see him warp in Adepts and not Zealots. But yeah, check it. He like glances in the main. He's like, you don't have gas. I will stop here at 44 drones. Doing really good. Let's start a 4th gas reactively and just, overlords and roaches. And remember, when you're defending a push, building lots of overlords ahead of time, really important. A lot of the time we get really focused on unit production and we then get supply blocked during the fight. So you've got to build lots of overlords right now. Good stuff. So he's like 1,000 times better prepared than he was in the previous games, guys. In the previous games, he had this army when they hit 30 seconds from now. Watch how many more roaches he's going to have at the front, not to mention the reinforce. He just built a drone. Don't you fucking dare build that drone. You know what that was, right? That was symmetry, guys. That was a Zerg's OCD. He had 18 drones on the natural, so he pulled 2, put them on that, and he was like, I need a 3rd for the gas. I need a 3rd for the gas. And he was like, so he built a drone at a point where he should never be building a drone to click on the gas. It won't lose him the game. It's just one of those funny things because I do the same thing sometimes. Like, I know there's an all incoming and I'm like, I'm not going to pull a drone. I've got 16 out of 16. I can't pull a drone off. Yes, you can. Stop being obsessed with it all lining up symmetrically. He should be started stepping backwards. Remember, yeah, you were meant to start a step away. Yeah, you've got the unit count, so it probably won't matter, but there was no reason to stand our ground initially. Now get on top of it. You can get roach speed started whenever you're winning a fight. And yes, he accidentally made glaives. It wouldn't have mattered. Okay. It wouldn't have mattered. Okay. You were going to crush it anyway. That was, dude, you had so much more stuff. I was saying to the stream while I was just watching, 5 minutes. In the previous games, you always got hit. The fight started 535, 540, right? Something like that. And you had the same number of units that you had there at 5 minutes. Plus, you had so much more actually coming out of the hatcheries this time as well. This was just massive, massive change. This was huge. So cutting the queens and the spores out, your drone count was up faster. Your roach horn and lair and gases actually started all earlier as well, simply because your drones were coming out smoother because your 4th queen was delayed. So just by delaying the 4th queen, all of your tech and everything just comes out a little bit earlier because you're like, oh, I'm saturated on these bases and stuff and my queens are out. And then you have more drones behind it as well because you're not going for the spores and then you just get into the roaches earlier. So this was really nice. How did it feel?
Yeah, surprisingly good because I had some. That's new. That's new to me. At that point in the game, I must admit. But it went also quite smooth, I think. But I really forgot on the OE passing. That's
no worries. I mean, that's at least your first overlord was in the right position, which is the most important one. But you did really good. Someone said if you need a tosser to do the build right, I wouldn't mind helping. Well, we're actually out of time for the coaching, but I have just suggested Dr. Ryan to the party so you guys can practice again. And Warzone, who just offered help, I've suggested him to the party. So if you want to play 1 or 2 more quick games, I know it's late at night for you, I'd suggest you at the very least add these guys to the party. Hop out of that game, add them to the party, and then just invite them to friends and kind of make sure you're So I'll just suggest them to party again since you're in game. So you can invite them to party, maybe play some games with them, or at the very least add them to friends and get some practice out later on. So
yeah, that would be nice.
Yeah, especially with this build, just being really tight on it is really important. Obviously, there's a lot of other all-ins. But what was really cool that game as well? You had 44 drones, not 41, and you still had just an overwhelming mass of roaches. Standing your ground against the zealots, we should have been pulling back because the immortals were shooting us. We should have been, move and shoot, even against slow zealots. Try to separate it. We want those immortals to be waddling. We don't want them to be standing their ground and shooting. The moment the immortals are standing their ground and shooting, it's insane. But yeah, I'm just gonna let these guys know. Hey guys, coaching's done, but please play customs with Michael and Prack a bunch. Will really help him out. Awesome. Yeah. Okay. Any last questions, Michael? While we wrap up, any details that we haven't covered?
Not yet. Oh yeah, maybe something like a follow-up. Okay. By that build, probably I don't need a follow-up because the Protoss often will GG when it doesn't win at that point. But
if there's like sentries though, right? If it's like a slightly later timing, you can get caught in the middle ground where it's a bit scary. So I really like.
Just saying.
1 second.
Best stream for SC2.
Oh, thank you very much for the tip there, David. I really appreciate that. Thank you. So I was coaching someone in a similar sort of stuff the other day, 2-base ZvP timings. It's obviously a hot topic right now. And I gave him the same sort of advice here, which I'll write here at the top. So I'll just write it at the top. I'm not sure where else I would put it. So I'm going to write follow-up counterattack. Because there's something where when you get forced into a ton of units, you want to then try and use those units aggressively against your opponent, right? You want to leverage all that army you've been forced into and not have them go, cool, I forced a lot of shitty roaches. They go back, they're like double forge, storm, third base. And you give them 5 minutes and suddenly they're back in the game, even though they've been behind economically that whole time, right? Because you're still on mass roach. You want to use your army before they get to that next step, right? Take advantage of what they've sacrificed. So personally, what I like, if they really force a ton of units, is I like to do a 55 drone Ravager, Roach, Hydra, Ling all-in attack with +1 range. So basically the idea there is you have about 15 Hydras. It could be as few as 10, but even that, as long as you've got enough stuff in front of it, they never die, right? Because you've always got Roaches, Ravagers, Lings in front of them. And that's a lot of damage. That's a battle line of Hydras. So it's about, let's say 12 to 15 Hydras. At least 4 Ravagers for breaking force field and also, just putting it on them. And then tons of Roachling rallying. And that's just a very powerful attack. Now, on some maps, there's just not good open areas on the third, so you go towards the natural and you try to control that space. And if they're trying to bait you down a ramp towards a third base, you go into their natural and you start killing probes, that sort of thing, right? So you try and bait them into the open area with this sort of army. Very good concave army. And what you do is you add 6 gas. So that's a 55 drone, 5 gas timing, sorry. 5 gas. Add 6 gas and Spire as you're pushing so you can do a round of mutas behind it. So it's just like, typical Zerg aggressive bullshit. You're like, look, come into the open, walk into my biles, my Lings and Hydras will get you. You're fighting. They defend. They're like, I think I'm ahead. And then 8 mutas fly into a mineral line if you didn't manage to get them with the first timing. But usually you can kill them with that first timing if you've managed to create enough of a lead for yourself, through good solid defense. So what's really nice about that as well is if you're unsure if they're doing a follow-up all-in, you're not droning to 70 workers, 2 Evo chambers, Bane speed, etc., etc. You're really going up just a little bit in workers, another 10, 15 from that 40 to 44 count. And that's, just a bit higher in drones, using the same units you're already building for defense, Ravagers, Roaches, Lings, just adding the Hydras in there, and it becomes a really powerful counter push. So that's a very nice branch to go into. Effective if forced into a lot of defense. Awesome.
Okay.
All right, mate. As always, write down questions, save replays. These were 2 fantastic replays today. And it was a great write-up of your build as well. That really helped us, I think, speed through. And immediately I was able to say, hey, oh, here's a bit where I'm not sure about. And here's another bit. And then we were able to look at it in the game. So I feel like we've mapped out the matchup really well. Let us know how it goes. And especially save replays of you dying to other weird timings.
Yeah, of course I will. Yeah, cool.
Awesome sauce.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much again.
Thank you, mate. All right, have a good night. And I'll catch you next time.
Yes. Yeah, see you.
See you,
Bye-bye.
mate.
Have fun.
Ciao.
See you. Ciao.